How's everyone feeling? A little bit tired? I imagine so. We have just got 20 minutes left, so hang in there. I promise this one is going to be a little bit different to everything else you've seen today. So yeah, let's get into it.
Cool.
Like Nat said, I'm Hannah. I look after agency relationships at Tracksuit, and this is Matt. As you said. Double intro. For those of you who are not familiar with Tracksuit, we are beautiful, radically affordable, always on brand tracking, and we are on a mission to champion brand building. We basically work with some of the best agencies and brands to help them build more successful brands by being the common language to measure, understand, and communicate the value of brand. And that's actually why we undertook this piece of research that I'm going to share with you today around the power of consideration. In terms of what you're going to see, we're going to share the results of the study along with like a bit of a framework and some case studies to bring some of the theory, off the page and into the real world. So yeah, let's get into it.
Cool, sounds good. So simply put, things are getting harder for us to, as marketeers, but probably more important. Today, both from a seller point of view, we have more options to bring products to market in terms of more places to sell. From a consumer point, they've got more places to access a broad range of products. This is only going to fast forward as things like automation, better use of data, and obviously the emergence of AI, both in the sense of products being developed quicker, understanding gate processes accelerating, understanding the need for MVPs to become easier to produce, and also the simple fact that people are adjusting what their hurdle rates are going to be. On the flip side, with all the technology coming into it as well, people are going to be able to access the marketing communication tools far easier. More emails in your inbox, more pixels, basically more messaging, everyone fighting for the same kind of noisy space of awareness, let alone consideration.
Good one. So if the future means like more products and more messaging, how do you actually cut through? A big part of the secret to that is brand. It's been proven time and time again that strong brands acquire customers easier, have higher lifetime value, and provide a moat against competition and downturns. But actually getting people to consider your brand is like not easy. If we think about the fact that they have like way more important things to think about. We're at a marketing conference today, and how many of you in the room right now are thinking about a brand? None, no doubt. You're like, when is this girl going to stop talking? I'm thinking about what I'm going to have dinner, what I'm going to have for dinner tonight, my kids, my family, maybe just like the general state of the world. On top of that, we are mentally lazy as humans, so we rely on these things called heuristics, which are basically mental shortcuts. They help us get where we want to be with like the least amount of effort. So heuristics are things like, if we're walking the street at night and we see someone coming towards us in a hoodie, we're probably going to cross the road. They're also the reason why, when we see things in like brown or green packaging, we automatically assume like it must be healthy or more sustainable. So it's not a big surprise with like our lizard brains that we're not really considering more than 2 to 3 brands at any one time. We looked at about 4,000 brands across Australia and New Zealand and discovered that 92% of categories have less than 3 brands in their consideration set. In fact, like majority of them just had 2. It definitely differs from category to category. So, if you're in things like packaged snacks and fast foods, people are much more like open to considering alternatives. Whereas if you're in categories like pet food and alcohol-free drinks, people are much more single-minded. We really wanted to understand like what like okay, good, and outstanding conversion looked like from awareness to consideration. So we made these benchmarks using our customer data and basically broke it down into awareness class. So you can see the 3 different awareness classes there. And what we discovered is that like actually most brands are only converting just over half of those that are aware into those that consider, which means there's like a whole heap of wastage that's going on. And like no matter the shape of the marketing funnel or wheel or journey or whatever it is that you subscribe to, you have to actually pass consideration to collect your paycheck.
Cool. All right, so how do we win in this space? As McKinsey points out here, and we probably already know amongst us all here, whoever wins that race from awareness to consideration is going to maximise the likelihood of their demand and obviously financial and commercial success. Cool, so how do we win at consideration? Really simple. Well, actually, I should take that back. First of all, familiarity. Okay, as human beings, we are naturally drawn to things that are familiar. Even when something is objectively better, often we will favour something that is familiar to us. Therefore, what we need to do is make sure we keep front of mind from a product and service point of view, how do we tap into that unconscious action? Some data here from Tracksuit. They've tapped into almost 1,400 Australian brands, and they had a look at basically the conversion ratio between awareness into consideration and measured that against how well someone knows that brand. Quite simply put, the more you know that brand, the more likely you're going to put that into a consideration set. Even to the extent that if you know it very well, whether it's positive or negative, it's up to 80% as high with all that 1,400 brands they measured.
So sounds really simple, but like, how do you actually build familiarity? We actually developed a bit of a framework to help you do this. There's kind of two key ways in. The first is about emotional connection. So consumers feel closer to brands that they are emotionally connected to. And the second is about saliency. So you can't be familiar with a brand that isn't like mentally or physically available to you. And then we've got a bunch of building blocks about how you can do this. So you could share values with your consumer in order to appear more relatable. You could leverage their network and people who are already familiar with them to drive your own familiarity. You could use culture and creativity to add genuine value to their lives and make them feel things. In terms of saliency, consistency is really important to ensure you're top of mind. Distinctiveness to simplify decision making, and physical availability for ease of purchase. Today we're actually just going to unpack these three building blocks for you in a little bit more detail.
Cool, so just looking at the emotional connection using shared values. People will forget what you said and what you did, but they won't forget how you made them feel. So obviously, writer and civil rights activists may have probably didn't really mean to use this for brands, but it's a good way of bringing out the importance of making that connection above a pure functional one. When we talk about shared values, it's an opportunity for consumers to see through products and services what they see in themselves, and most importantly, make them feel heard and make them feel part of something bigger than themselves. So some more data here from Tracksuit. Then we went out and broke down a whole lot of brand propositions, near about 1,400. And these are the top 4 elements that came out of the brand propositions, the statements that caused the conversion from awareness into consideration. Importantly here, you look at relatability and trustworthiness. So the metrics here are by adding 10% into each of these areas, you'll get the resultant conversion into consideration. And you look at the top 2 with relatability and trustworthiness, exceedingly high with the 8% and 7% conversion, which kind of shows the importance of shared values. And talking just from a live example, when we launched our non-alc cocktails into sort of major retail, we focused very much on the shared values side, and that was measured across a range of things. One was flavours, making sure that first jump that you're asking people to take from alcohol to non-alcohol often isn't a chasm, and therefore there's familiarity in what those core flavours are, G&T, margaritas, Negronis. 2 other key ones that we looked at was style. We made sure this was something that was more about fitting in rather than standing out, understanding also the style and age group that we were communicating to, slightly older, a bit more conservative. But really important third was also understanding the target market within it was, yes, there was a core minority of non-drinkers, but by large, the majority were what we call flexi drinkers. So therefore, by talking to things about choice, freedom and empowerment in what we did with our language online, really drove the old connection through, emotional connection through shared values.
That's fun.
Cool, so really simply, shared values is about sort of understanding how people can reflect themselves in the product. Here, as I said, directly through values that you portray in the brand, looking the way the brand or product behaves, so they have a level of trust within you, and then finally also understanding if the brand or product is investing or showing interest in their interests, so therefore they can join on that customer journey.
Beautiful. Great, so the next 2 building blocks are really about saliency, because brands that are easy to mind and easy to find are more familiar to us. Let's kick this section off with a little audience participation. So hands up, who in the room has purchased a mobile phone in the last 2 weeks? This is usually, oh yeah, okay, thank you. There's at least one. Good one. And then now who's going to purchase one in the next couple of years? Beautiful. Good one. So this is a great demonstration of the fact that most consumers are not in market yet. So we need to be consistently building rapport with them so that when they enter the market, your brand is actually top of mind. This is essentially the premise of future demand. This is actually an idea that's coined by one of our founders, James Herman, and it talks to the fact that marketing has two equally important roles. So performance marketing is all about hunting down and harvesting those that are in market today with really highly targeted product-focused comms. And brand marketing is all about building rapport and familiarity with those who are going to be in market in the future, so that when they enter the category, your brand is going to be top of mind. We've got a great example of this from one of our partners and customers, Nunn Media in Carol O'Day. Basically, consistency formed a really big part of their media strategy because you never know when you're going to need a personal injury lawyer. And as a result of being consistently in market, predominantly on buses and in out of home, they saw an increase in consideration by 6% in 6 months, which is massive. It's actually 3 times the benchmark than like the top brands in their awareness class. So incredible outcome. Now on to distinctiveness.
Cool. Obviously, distinctiveness is important. It basically allows people to make quick decisions when they come to their consumer actions. You know, it's all about making sure values and USPs are communicated in a very rapid sense. In the sense of how important that is, Kantar did a study to show that brands with the strongest assets are up to 52% more salient than their rivals. What that means is effectively making sure that you've got a distinctive brand. I'm just going to quickly take the chance. Luckily, I've had the fortunate situation to work with both of these brands over many years when I was younger and still consuming lots and lots of caffeine in a can. First of all, like, these are both great examples of distinctiveness, but almost in opposite ways. Red Bull, for many, many years, sort of held the mantle of energy drink globally with a brand and the way they implanted that brand and its locations to really make sure they got across the idea of power, precision, sophistication, elitism. And that sort of came through everything they did, from even if their sampling teams and their V-dubs all the way up to their F1 teams and their drivers. Interestingly enough, the first brand to really challenge Red Bull on a global stage has just as distinctive brand, but they flipped it on its head and didn't decide to go head-to-head with the beast that was Red Bull, but actually went, right, we're going to position ourselves both from a brand point of view and our assets and the way we position those in life and in interaction, all to do with common, approachable, dirty, grimy, really everything that was the opposite of Red Bull, and bringing out that new range of consumers to join them in their drive to be number one. And like, that was even shown in the choice of the cans, making it 500ml versus 250ml, so always positioning value and asking people to unleash their beast. So it's just a really good insight to understand the importance of distinctiveness, but also the fact that it can be done in 2 different ways in the same category with great success. Yeah, definitely. But distinctiveness is not just for these like massive global brands with billion-dollar budgets. It's also relevant for smaller brands as well. We've got this cool example from one of our customers, Coca-Cola. So they underwent a big distinctiveness rebrand. You can see it here, where they brought the blue and the palm tree really to the forefront of all of their comms, from like on-pack to above the line, sampling and social. And as a result, they saw a 4.4% increase in their consideration, which is 1.5 times higher than the top brands in their awareness class. They're also converting 4% more people from awareness to consideration than the top brands in their awareness class as well. So to kind of close things out here, basically consistency and distinctiveness are really about saliency. And saliency is about making your brand more familiar so it's easily thought of in buying situations. And yeah, I'll wrap things up with this quote from James Herman out of his book, Future Demand. He says that when we make people familiar with our brand before they enter the category, they're more likely to act on performance marketing. Cool. So where to from here? If you are interested in getting a copy of this presentation or finding more out about Tracksuit, you can hit me up at partnerships.gotracksuit.com or yeah, head to our website.
That's it.
Cool. You're a top.
Done. Now you can go to the bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah? Oh,
Great effort, people. I enjoyed that. Now I've left the microphone over there, so let's just shout.
yeah, that's
Sounds
fine.
good.
So I'm not sure if this is actually a straightforward question or not.
Okay,
But
I'm scared by this.
So if most consumers are considering 2 to 3 brands at any one, 2 to 3 brands at any one time, how often does the most considered brand win, as it were?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that question.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a
Isn't
great
it just like
question.
loads?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what we
I mean, I
hope
would have
for.
to speak to one of our data scientists to do the crunching on that. I'm not sure.
All right, it's anonymous,
Yeah.
so we can't
Yeah.
hunt down the asker, but that's
sorry.
kind of why Slido
Email me.
exists. But then also, what degree would you hope that advertising would tip the scales on it? Again, loads.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Chicken and egg, and sort of if they've already tipped the scales to get the consideration, and then if Coles 360 gave us all the data and we can match it straight up, I'm sure we could get an answer.
It'd probably differ, wouldn't it, on different categories too. But there you go. Email Hannah at Partnerships, and you will find out more. How about that?
It's a really curly question. Yeah.
Do we need one last question to win the last?
Well, actually, we do have a contender for that winner, so there's still a last chance to win that prize.
there you go.
Oh,
Hat in the
here we
ring.
go.
There we
You've
go.
already won it, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're just making me walk up the stairs. You sure?
So just a quick question. So the correlation between awareness and consideration is obviously a benchmark. Has any work been done to match that benchmark movement, uplift movement, with corresponding uplift in sales?
It's a really good question. We launched our API a couple of months ago, and we have a bunch of agencies and customers that are starting to feed our data into their modeling, and I'm really excited to see over the next sort of few months around them doing a better job of connecting brand health metrics with revenue outcomes.
I mean, talking from a brand point of view, this is sort of latest developments. Like our own matching versus the data that we had available through the majors definitely provided a correlation to that, but it wasn't done on a granular level that we're looking at there.
Thank you very much.